Hello lovely people, and welcome to today's video. Haven't already picked up from the thumbnail and title of this video, today's video is about Quaker weddings. Quakerism is my religion. I am a Quaker, also known as being a member of the Religious Society of Friends. I made a video about it a few weeks ago with a bit more of an overview, so if you'd like to know more, click on that. The link will be in the description down below and also in a card above. I definitely didn't have enough time in the last video and the live stream that followed to answer all of those questions and delve into the things that I wanted to. Please comment down below with what Quaker issue you would like me to cover next. I really look forward to your comments and I read everyone. I'll be sharing a little bit about my own Quaker wedding experience in this video, so I wanted to start with a little bit of Quaker history. So I don't give you the impression that Quakers are a monolith or even follow one creed, especially since I am rainbow coloured. Quaker history. There are a variety of Quakerisms and they go back to theological and social movements, particularly within America in the late 1700s and early 1800s. These go between liberal and orthodox. To give you the best summation of this that I can, Quakers were once very insular. Their beliefs were seen as very different from other religions. They believed that all people were equal, that women should have equal footing in a church. They refused to bow down to priests or authority figures, and they got put in prison a lot, generally for breaking laws that they did not see as being right. Again, that's going to make a pretty insular bunch of people. Seriously, Quakers at one time only married within other Quakers. So some Quakers go to America to see if they can forge a life free from persecution. Worked out so well. And some Quakers stay home in England. And there comes a separation, with some Quakers wanting to move more towards opening up. They wanted to join the wider Christian movement, mainly with other Protestants, and try and enact social change. Things like they wanted to go on missions. This group are called the Orthodox Quakers. They represent more of an evangelical Christian stance, but with a Quaker twist. They wanted to go on missions and change the world. At that time, they were seen as being incredibly liberal. The other group were conservative with a small c in that they wanted to stick to the original Quaker teachings. They wanted to protect the purity and specialness of who the Quakers are. Keep the equality, keep the simplicity, keep the silence. Funnily enough, however, by modern standard, it's now this group who are the liberal ones. They maintained their unprogrammed worship and their emphasis on the belief that the light comes from within, so they are more universalist, they're quite socially and politically liberal. The breakaway group over here are now the conservative ones. They're socially conservative, some are politically conservative, they're theologically evangelical, and they worship in a very different way with programmed ministry. Sometimes they even have stained glass windows. Don't know why, to me that seems like the most different thing. There you go, stained glass windows, apparently. That's what it really is. It's the difference. I went to one of these meetings in America when I was a teenager, and it kind of freaked me out how different it was to what we have in England. As the breakaway group of Quakers were the ones who went on missions to foreign lands, you generally tend to find that Quakers who are in places like South America or Africa follow more along this line of the Orthodox Quaker. And there is a huge Quaker presence in Africa, with I think 52% of all Quakers internationally live in Africa. So they're the evangelical Quakers, and then the Quakers who live in England are this group here, the kind of original, now very liberal group, and then I think America is more of a mix of both, has both of these. And of course worldwide there are all different in between. I realise that it's not a perfect history and it's very simplified, and please don't come for me, Quaker scholars, thanks. Basically that was my way to preface everything with, hi, this is the British version, if you couldn't tell from my accent, and wonderful little hair accessory. So it's really important to mention as well that the views of Quakers around the world towards homosexuality also vary greatly. It's a whole range from celebrating and practising same-sex marriage to thinking that we're deviant. I'm largely just going to be telling you about Quaker weddings in general, but obviously my experience of a Quaker wedding is a gay one. So I thought that was important to mention. I can't not exactly talk about gayness since my Quaker wedding was gay and I'm gay and, you know, gay. The marriage ceremony. Okay, I'm really sorry. I was very silly whilst filming and I forgot to say that photographs aren't actually allowed to be taken during a Quaker wedding because everyone who's in the room has to be part of what's going on. So you can't have a wedding photographer there taking photographs. Also, that would be very distracting for the people who are there. But what we did have is my friend Catherine, who did a live drawing of the event as it was happening, which we're soon going to get framed and put on our wall. And I should put all the pictures of that drawing on my Instagram very soon. Rather than traditional church services that we see in most Christian churches, unprogrammed Quaker worship is conducted with all participants facing the centre of the room and sitting in complete silence. When a person taking part feels moved to speak, they then stand up, give ministry, and then sit back down again. And the room is still in silence. A meeting of worship for solemnisation of marriage, that's what it's called, follows pretty much the same lines, particularly when it comes to the equality side of things. It may seem incredibly strange for anyone who has no experience of Quakerism or Quaker meetings. Rather than the bride walking in to meet her groom, the couple walk in together once all of their other guests have gone in and sat down. There's no father handing his daughter over to the new man who owns her. Awkward, but that is where that comes from. So instead, the pair who are to be married give themselves to the other freely. There isn't traditionally a place for bridesmaids or for groomsmen, but I have an awful lot of little cousins who really wanted to be involved, so they all wore matching dresses, and they went in after all of the other guests had sat down, but obviously not before Claudia and I walked in. The particular meeting house that we were married in had raised benches on the side opposite the door, so that was quite a natural place for us to sit. But generally most meeting houses don't have that. They'll have all of the chairs are at the same level and they're all facing the centre. So there isn't a specific place that the couple have to sit or where they should sit. It is of course important that you do mark out the places where they will sit. Otherwise they may walk into the room and realise that the only two chairs that are still free are on opposite ends, and that's going to be really awkward when it comes to saying their declarations. The attendees gather in silent worship until a point that feels natural to the couple, and then they stand up and give their declarations to each other. I believe in America they call them promises, but in England we say declarations. These are very short, simple and egalitarian. Fun fact, Quakers do not swear or take oaths because their intention is to tell the truth at all times, so why would they need to make a vow? There are special exemptions in courts of law provided for Quakers because obviously to a Quaker it could be quite offensive to assume that they would need to make an oath against something in order to tell the truth, because a Quaker should tell the truth at all times. The declarations made by the couple in Britain are as follows. Friends, I take this, my friend, full name, to be my husband, wife, spouse or partner in marriage, promising through divine assistance to be unto him/her a loving and faithful wife/husband/spouse/partner in marriage, so long as we both on earth shall live. There is then the option to add at the start either in the presence of God or in the fear of our Lord and in the presence of this assembly, and you can change the last part to until it pleased the Lord by death to separate us. You can then both trade rings if you so wish, but that isn't normally part of the setup. Claude and I did. We tied our rings to our wedding bouquets. I cried, obviously. I cried way too much. I looked a mess, so. Invest in waterproof mascara is the answer. The meeting then returns to silence, and those taking part are very welcome to stand up and give ministry. Discuss how they know the couple and how great it is to see them together and how much they love them. Anything that they think would be nice. A lot of people there won't ever have been to a Quaker meeting before or have any kind of experience of Quakerism, so they can feel quite awkward to them to stand up and start just chatting away to this room of strangers about love. It's one of the few occasions, I think funerals are the only other one, where it's okay to have pre-planned what you're going to say. So the couple can essentially ask a few people to get the ball rolling. I think we asked Claudia's sister to do a reading, and we told my mother she was free to stand up and speak, which she was going to do anyway, let's be honest. I get this chattiness from somewhere, so. Once they'd both stood up, then a number of our friends did, and then that really got the ball rolling, and I think at one point it was like everyone was trying to stand up. At the rise of the meeting, which means the end, the witnesses, absolutely everyone there gathered, signs a Quaker marriage certificate, which is a massive certificate that we have yet to get framed, which has the signature of absolutely everybody who came, including the smallest child there. I think you have to put the pen in their hand and then move their hand or something, because it has to be their mark. But obviously don't let a toddler go to town on it. That would be ridiculous. Essentially, the Quaker wedding certificate is a record of your attendance, but it's also a promise that you're going to uplift the couple and be there for them and keep this marriage going, because a marriage isn't just about the two people, it is about the community that you've created around this marriage. Quakers traditionally have no clergy, that's no priests, no vicars, no ministers. Instead, it's God who marries us, and since we all have our own personal relationships with God, that's sort of whatever form you believe God to take, we still have our own relationship, and that means that we marry each other. And you do that by declaring your intentions in front of all the other people in the room who are there to witness it. George Fox, founder of the Quakers, wrote in 1669, "For the right joining in marriage is the work of the Lord only, and not the priests or magistrates. For it is God's ordinance and not man's, and therefore friends cannot consent that they should join them together. For we marry none, it is the Lord's work, and we are but witnesses." There is, however, a registering officer who handles all of the legal stuff, paperwork and organising, and they are appointed by the local area meeting. So yeah, again, this person does not marry the couple, they're just there to make sure that all the legal stuff gets done. There isn't actually a set length of time for a meeting for marriage to take place. I believe we chose 45 minutes for ours because we had small children. The longest a Quaker marriage has ever gone on is 69 hours, and that was in 1969 by a couple called, I'm going to get this wrong, Tabitha and Moses Oatmeal. Going back to before the wedding, when you and your fiancé decide that you would like to get married and have a Quaker wedding, the first thing you do is to announce your intention to marry to the Quaker meeting in question. You can do this either in person or in writing. The meeting then appoint a clearness committee from the members. I think generally it includes a few elders. Again, I did talk about those in the last video. The committee will then meet with the couple prior to the wedding and discuss various things, see whether they're actually truly ready to begin married life. It's less about the wedding and more about the marriage. They're there to support you and make sure you're doing the right thing in joining your lives together, and also that you have thought through all of the possible things that you could ever disagree on. But they're not gatekeepers who can tell you whether you're allowed to get married at all. They could just say, this meeting doesn't perhaps agree that this is the best idea for you two right now. If you go away and think about that. But they're not, some kind of legal gatekeeper. Could go and get married somewhere else. Questions like, do you both want the same living situation in the future? What happens if you can't have children? Have you thought that through? Is your relationship built on passion? What will you do when that wanes? I know, it's quite funny, as if there's anything that Claudia and I have not spoken about. Marriage is very much believed to be for life for Quakers. It isn't something that you enter into lightly. The whole meeting thing can actually seem a bit scary, and I think we were quite nervous before going into ours, but it was really lovely, and they had tea and biscuits. And they were all really sweet, even though they were asking us quite intrusive questions. But it was good. It is designed to help you. If the couple seems ready, then the marriage is taken under the care of the area meeting, who will help make sure that they've got all the arrangements, like getting together a Quaker marriage certificate, and that they know what's going to happen on the day, that the meeting room is going to be ready, that they can go in the night before and put flowers up. I believe in America, couples can choose to marry within the Quaker meeting, but without legally registering their marriage. That is something I don't think you can do in England. I don't think that's legal in England, because it's having a fake wedding in a way, because it's making other people think that it's a real one, but it's not. I think that's why it's not allowed in England. But British Quakers did, however, marry same-sex couples at a time when it was not legal in the UK, because love is love, damn it. The legal stuff, British edition. Quaker marriage has been the subject of a special law in England and Wales since the 18th century to the present day. The Marriage Act of 1753, which was the first legal and civic recognition of marriage act, said that only marriages conducted by the Church of England, the Jews and the Society of Friends were legal marriages. So common law marriages and those conducted by other faith groups were not legal, which to be honest probably made Quakers of the time feel incredibly guilty, because that's what we do when we're given some kind of privilege that other people are not allowed to have. Fun fact, the Marriage Act of 1949 forbade marriages outside specified times and locations. Quakers and Jews were exempt from this, so they were the only people who could get married at the dead of night, halfway down a cliff face. When it comes to Quaker marriage, that's going to be pretty difficult because you'd have to get an awful lot of people down that cliff face. I mentioned this in the last video and at the start, but again, Quakerism comes in a wide variety. I do not speak for all Quakers. Quaker decision making is based at the level of monthly meeting, an area meeting, and yearly meeting, and then other countries have their own yearly meetings. Even within the yearly meetings, there are always going to be dissenting ideas and opinions, and oh my god, there's really no way to say all Quakers. Aside from the core parts of Quakerism, obviously, as I talked about in my last video. So when it comes to homosexuality, you get a wide variety. From me, hello, Quaker in Britain, gay, had a lesbian Quaker wedding, to a Quaker in Uganda who may believe differently, because the clerk of Uganda's yearly meeting gave a speech where he said homosexuals and even those who support them are worthy of death. That's different. Although he did later apologise and say that he meant spiritual death. Generally, in my experience, Quakers are the most yay for gay religion. Love is love, and if you believe in the complete equality of all people, then how can you believe that one love is more worthy than another? Meetings in America, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain, along with other countries that have a much smaller Quaker presence, have all now started offering same-sex Quaker weddings. In some jurisdictions where same-sex marriage is not recognised by the state, the Quaker meetings there have followed the example of early Quakers and decided, screw that, so they just offer same-sex marriage anyway and ignore the state. But again, to be balanced and fair, I should point out that there are Quakers who believe that homosexuality is a sin, because that's their interpretation of the Bible, and equally there are other Quakers who do not read the Bible or think that it in any way relates to Quakerism. Oh, kind of difficult making a video about this is what Quakers believe, because Quakers believe different things. So this is a kind of history and kind of what I believe. And on the topic of gender, we can again see variations. But most people believe that the only truly important thing in a relationship is the presence of selfless love. Actually says that in here. Selfless love. That's all you need. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope that you have learnt a bit from it and you've enjoyed what I have shared. I really enjoy making these videos, so please, as I said, comment beneath with what topic you would like me to cover next. In the meantime, you should definitely check out the Quaker Speaks channel, which has interviews with friends on various different topics. Though they are American, so again there are a few differences to my experiences, and that's one of the things that I really, really love, is about seeing how different Quakers can be and variations. Like they've got one with a Muslim Quaker. Their captions are also really on point, so kudos to them. If you would like to become a member of this channel and help support the content that I create, as well as gaining access to bonus video goodies and being the first to have say on exciting new merch like this, then all you have to do is click the join button down below and become a member of the Kellgren-Fozard Club. See you next time!